Today's not one of my streaming days, but I wanted to talk about this. This is a video of a PhD computer scientist literally dropping out of their PhD program to become an OnlyFans model. And I've watched like maybe the first couple minutes of this. It's been on my timeline a bunch of times. Multiple people, multiple of my colleagues have sent this to me. If you didn't know, I do have a graduate education in similarly adjacent fields, and a lot of people feel similarly. I also happen to know personally multiple people who have done this exact same thing, where they were doing a really high level, in depth research in some other area, like inventing new cutting edge technologies and publishing papers, getting on Nature and Science, and they literally drop out for an OnlyFans model position or what? Well, to say position is a stretch. You know what I mean? They drop out to go make money doing porn or something of the like on the internet. And yeah. So let's go ahead and watch this. And I have a lot of feelings about it, just as someone who does do computer science, someone in a very technical field, and also someone who's not shy about doing spicy things on the internet.
I've dropped out of my PhD. I've cried so much over this decision to quit my PhD, because it's a stressful decision, not that I'm particularly sad about it.
Okay, first off, in the first 8 seconds, I can see why she is becoming an OnlyFans model. Clearly a very beautiful woman. Though, I don't know about fulfillment. I believe that people need fulfillment from their work. And historically, I don't know how much you really get that out of sex work. Then again, though, maybe I wipe my tears with $100 bills, right?
Doing OnlyFans and content creation full time, it's not just a career choice.
She sees herself as a YouTuber,
kind of like a gamble
well.
on the direction of my entire life.
Yeah, that is true.
Some days I wonder if I'm making the right choice. When I open LinkedIn and I see the pages of all of the people who are my age, who already have 3 years into their careers and are climbing the ladder with senior level titles.
Oh, okay, that I feel like I understand, because when you're pursuing higher level education, you are not out there making money. Anyone in any technical, anyone in computer science especially will tell you a graduate education is just straight up not worth it. If you only care about money, it is a economically bad decision to get a graduate education in computer science in America if you are already a citizen. Sorry, some qualifiers, but it's true. Like, you can be out there earning, I don't know, make close or even a little bit north of 6 figures with just a bachelor's in computer science. So for you to choose not to make that money, to spend about like 4 to 5 years in a PhD program making $50K a year, like, I get it. That's already a bad economic choice. And it's one that you're choosing because you really like the research or you like the technical side of things. There are a lot of roles out there where if you only have a bachelor's, you cannot contribute. Like, you cannot do cutting edge research with a bachelor's. Not because you physically can't or you're mentally not able to, but because there's HR, there are weird hiring policies, and people just don't trust you. And I'm sure that's what she's seeing. She's opening up LinkedIn, seeing that all her colleagues, the people she used to go to school with, are suddenly, bam, they're working at Uber, they're working at Meta, they're working at Apple, they're making crazy money, right? Like, I get the twinge of jealousy there.
But I can't say that I don't like the idea of wearing a polished suit and walking into an office where I have people working with me and working on a project, or even the alternative route of becoming a professor and having students work for me.
She's not lamenting her choice to go to graduate school. She's lamenting her choice about leaving graduate school to be an OnlyFans model, leaving all of that possible prestige, academic papers, the research, all of that behind, in addition to leaving a standard 9-to-5 job. Because she said that in a 9-to-5, you have your camaraderie, you have people that you work with, you have a company that is all pushing for something, And that sort of companionship is something that is desired. I think it's a base human need, honestly. Even me as a solo content creator, I'm just a VTuber. There are a lot of other VTubers out there who literally have little small VTuber groups where they're just all creators and they hang out together. And they do that so that they can have that sense of camaraderie and like working together to build something. And like, yeah, it's something we all need. If you don't have it in one area, you need to get it in another. And so she's not going to get that from her career because I maybe I mean, like nothing's stopping her from finding a bunch of other models and hanging out with them and, talking about how best to maximize their profits and all that stuff. Like it's doable.
Sort of camaraderie in those environments and a structure that I think I'd enjoy. And of course, not to mention the outfits. I mean, come on. I have so many professional outfits that have never seen the light of day just because I have nowhere to wear them to.
Hey, there's a market for professional outfits doing certain things that aren't safe for YouTube. Though I will say the fact that she says she thinks she might like them but doesn't know kind of concerns me. Like, are you sure you're telling me you've never gotten a 9 to 5? My main concern is that does sex work essentially online, and then now that's a never takesy backsies card. Every employer, for better or for worse, will look upon that poorly. And now she's kind of closed the door to certain opportunities in her life without ever having the chance to experience them. I understand like beauty is fleeting. You got to strike while the iron's hot. So maybe she's taken that into account and has decided to go ahead.
And part of me wonders if I'll miss the chance to experience that life and that lifestyle. But then I start to think about
it depends on how much money you're making. I'm going to be honest. If you're making not that much by quitting, maybe you will miss this lifestyle. But if you're making a ton of money, I think money solves some issues here.
Some of the trade-offs. Those same people whose lifestyles I thought I envied are tied to someone else's vision and someone else's pace. They'll spend their lives working for a company, doing things that they don't necessarily enjoy, and of course without the recognition that they deserve. Their work might win someone else fame and wealth, while they stay in the background, expendable. They'll constantly worry about getting laid off, planning their lives around their salary.
Okay. This is real. When you work for a company, you are a cog in ultimately what is their money printing machine. And whether or not they appreciate you or give you the attaboys required to give you job fulfillment, I find often than not, they don't. You won't get the camaraderie that you really want. Are there certain positions where you do get that? Yeah. I'm sure there are places but that doesn't affect the company bottom line, nor does it affect how much money and prestige you get in a PhD program or any sort of research institution. Like research institutions don't really care about that either. They just want you to pump out more papers. It's the whole like publish or perish model. So like what she's saying is true. I honestly, I made the mistake as well early career that I sought these things for my job, but you find out very quickly that you need to find it elsewhere. And that's why I got a second job, aka content stuff. When you make content creation, you do like YouTube videos, trying to make shorts and whatnot, and like stream. All of that is really fulfilling. You set your hours, you decide what is important to you, what you care about, what you think will have the highest return on investment. Some people say it's more like entrepreneurial. Like if you have an entrepreneurial mind, working a 9 to 5 or working from under someone just kind of sucks. And if you're okay with working a 9 to 5 and you don't like thinking about work after work hours, you don't want to worry about all these multi-factor things, then like do it. There's no shame in that. And honestly, it's probably more stable. For example, I do the content creation stuff at a cost to me. Like this costs my money, costs my time. It is not profitable. I hope it will be someday, but we're far off from that. And I think she's further along than I am, where she is profitable. And now she's thinking, hey, do I really want to work for the man or do I want to work for myself? If I was in her position, I would also want to work for myself. And I think most people would as well. It's just more of an opportunity thing. The fact that she has this opportunity to do it at all is already different than most people. Most people who do a PhD program, quite frankly, aren't attractive enough nor have the marketing hoo-ha to get something like this off the ground. I know a lot of creators who do sort of sex work online. And let me tell you, this girlie is probably like, if she's making this decision, she's probably in the top like 5 percentile of earners. Most people do not make that much money. You post a nude pic and you get like, I don't know, a total of $40. And you're like, ah, yes, nice. But now the whole town, all your friends from high school has seen your coochie. Like, is that really a good reward ratio? I don't know.
I'm no longer bound by the expectations of an academic institution or the constraints of a corporate office. I can comfortably wake up each day and decide what I want to learn, diving into topics that genuinely interest me and not just those deemed important by a funding agency or a company's bottom line.
This doesn't sound like, do I choose to do sex work or do I choose to do a PhD in computer science? This sounds more to me like, do I pick a career path that will have me working for another person? Or do I pick a career path where I'm working for myself? Also, quick side note, the way she's using a teleprompter, I assume, or just looking into the camera all the time is somehow uncanny. I mean, I think it's slightly unnatural. Unsure, can't quite put my finger on it. I don't think this video is AI generated. I have seen online some people are speculating that this entire person is AI generated. I highly doubt that. And honestly, the message still rings true. I personally know people who have done this.
And when it comes to research, I'm no longer bound by the pressure to publish for the sake of tenure or grant applications. I can write papers independently, sure, not because I need to meet a quota, but because I genuinely want.
There's never a quota for papers, FYI. It's always a, you should really get this number of papers out. Nudge, nudge. Also, you're a contract worker and we can lay you off at any point in time.
I'm not contributing to someone else's legacy or bottom line. I'm building my own brand and my own future. And
she sounds like she wants to be an entrepreneur. She wants to own her own stuff and bear that risk that comes with it.
All of the effort that I put directly benefits me. The rewards are mine to enjoy. For example, although my OnlyFans has been a side project while I pursued my PhD, I've been able to make over $1 million.
Okay. Remember what we mentioned before about how money kind of really decided things here? I don't know what the time frame is for this, but $1 million over, I don't know, 2 or 3 years, that's no joke. Though I will say, I hope it's a lot more than $1 million, because one thing that's different from the sex work path is that it's fleeting. The earning opportunities there is front loaded. And so you need to make investments. You need to be smart. You need to work really hard for a couple of years and then you can coast later on. What she's competing with is like, hey, if you become a top AI researcher and you go work for OpenAI making ChatGPT, right? ChatGPT, they are literally making $700K a year plus. Like, it is not unheard of to have $1 million salaries. And these are salaries, right? Like, they are getting paid out by a company. Sure, they probably work crazy hours, but like, the sky's the limit for a lot of fields. It's more so, which one is more attainable for her? Could she be a top researcher at OpenAI, or could she be a top model on OnlyFans, right? Like, and I honestly, no shame to either. If you have the looks and you have the marketing knowledge and you know how to run a business, you probably are going to do pretty well in OnlyFans. I feel like most people who are initially attracted to that sort of work, they are put into that position by circumstance and aren't usually the most business minded initially anyway. And so I think you can really claw through the competition there. Whereas if you're going against other AI researchers, like developing some crazy high-tech large language model like that, That's tough. Those people have spent their entire life focusing on that one thing.
Dollars. With that, I helped my family pay off their mortgage. I bought myself a car, and
Nice.
thankfully, I avoided taking out any student loans. Now I
Okay, that's one thing. Your PhD is paid for you, but they almost never cover enough and you have to take out loans for it. It kind of sucks, but it's the way it is.
have an investment portfolio, and I'm
Good,
planning on
good.
buying my own house soon.
Have an investment
So
portfolio.
all of these achievements are just reminders of the tangible rewards of carving my own path and the freedom that comes with it. But even
Okay.
with this
I hope she is still accounting for the money-making potential of a career, because ultimately the decision's up to her. I don't think this is a very personal one, but if I were to look at this, I'd look at what sort of earning potentials I could reasonably achieve and then compare it to what I'm making now. Mind you, her money is somewhat front-loaded.
I fear not having that external competition, no one to measure myself against, and that it will make me complacent. Will I push myself enough without the pressure to outperform others? And of course,
I mean, I think that's different to each individual. If you are working, quote unquote, for yourself at home, doing, I don't know, either like content creation of any kind, and it's just you, there's still motivation, right? You can still see your friend or your whatever doing stuff and doing it better than you. For example, I have a VTuber sister who's absolutely killing it. She's honestly posting, growing, making really high quality content, and people are flocking to her, and rightfully so. That inspires some competition in me, you know? Like, it makes me want to work harder. And albeit we're not on the same team, I don't know her personally, is literally just someone I see posting online, and I still feel the same way. I still get inspired to do more work. So I'm not worried about being complacent. I guess it if you're worried about being complacent because you're not literally in an office working next to someone, I don't know. I don't think people think that way.
there's also the opposite case that my drive for more will take over. What if I never feel satisfied, always chasing that next milestone?
Okay, if you're never going to feel satisfied and you're always going to chase milestones, you're going to do that anywhere. You're going to do that regardless of whether or not you are working for yourself or you're working for someone else.
It's overwhelming, but when I look at the bigger picture, I know I'm better off than most people my age.
Better off than most people your age is probably an understatement if you just made over $1 million. But all right, continue.
Or even those that are far older than I am.
Also
That's
true.
part of why I chose to leave academia. Just for some reference, a professor in the US earns around $100,000 on average, but the job isn't what most people imagine it to be, or at least it's not what I thought it would be.
Same.
Instead of spending their time diving into research or contributing to new ideas in the field, most of their energy is spent writing grant proposals and fighting for funding, which
That is very true. If you are a professor, you are essentially trying to propose to the US government and some other funding agencies like, hey, my idea has value, and you have to convince them. Unfortunately, though, there are a lot of other people who are just like you. They are also trying to get money for their own amazing cutting edge idea. And so now the money is limited. So they choose who and where to designate it to. So professors everywhere are essentially all competing for the same pool of money, and it can be really cutthroat. Things like historic prestige, like how many publications have you had prior, your past research exposure, like all those things matter. And they're all factored into whether or not you should get money for your next research idea.
based on my first-hand experience working with several professors, these funds often go to those at more prestigious
Yes,
universities,
of course. Why wouldn't
regardless
they?
of whether
Yeah.
they're more qualified. Additionally,
I mean, they're funding agencies. They don't have time. Like, they try to look through qualifications, but prestige of universities is also used as a shorthand.
their students often do majority of the hands-on
Oh my
work.
God.
And
This is me right now. I did the majority of hands-on work for a recent paper that I was working on. And of course, like my name's on it, but I'm not the primary author. It's common.
and the professor acts more as an administrator. It's a life filled with constraints and obligations, not the idealized pursuit of knowledge I once dreamed.
Okay, I think that's a naive take. I see a professor, they are more the captain at the helm. And when you think of a captain at the helm, you think of, oh, they're leading and pursuing these bold, brand new ideas. And that's true, but they're also leading people, a lot of people. And those people require admin work. Like that's the reality of the situation. I'm sure even in the 1700s, sailing around, being the captain, you had to do it was mostly admin work, okay? That goes for today too. If you are the professor of a lab, you're mostly in charge of making sure all your people are happy and are moving in the generally correct direction.
Of. So, what about working in the industry? Well, the reality is that it's no better.
Ah,
Big tech.
it depends. I counterpoint that a little bit. Certain companies will push your individual work more than others. If you work for a huge megacorp, it's most likely you work on some bespoke tool that no one actually sees and no one can really see the benefit of. That boils down to you knowing where your work will most be valued. If you just listen to your boss and do what they put in front of you, you might not get that bombastic career explosion.
You pour your heart into is rarely attributed to you. Instead, it pads the pockets of the executives who sit at the top.
That's true. Like, financially, are you directly rewarded? Like, if I were to go out and suddenly automate some procedure that saves the company literally millions of dollars a year, am I directly going to see any of that money? Honestly, most likely not. Though you can use that experience there and what you've accomplished to leverage your next job.
Every job comes with that silent anxiety of layoffs, the knowledge that your position is only as secure as the next quarterly
Yeah,
earnings report. It's
you're a
a
cog in a machine.
precarious,
Yeah.
thankless existence. One that I think
I wouldn't say it's thankless though. And I mean it is somewhat precarious, but one that you can set yourself up well for. If you're a skilled worker and you have good connections in the industry and you get laid off, it's no big deal. You can get a next job pretty easily.
would stifle my creativity and autonomy. I know that I'm choosing something harder, but in the end, more fulfilling. This journey isn't easy, but it's
Harder is relative. I don't know if some people would say leaving a PhD in computer science to do OnlyFans work is harder per se.
it's a reminder that I have the freedom to carve out a life of my own
Okay.
on my own terms. A freedom that so many people will never experience because they're just too afraid to break the norms that are set by
That's
society.
cap.
And
Some people, I don't think it's a fear factor. It's some people like not worrying about the business aspect of their job day to day. Like some people just enjoy working a 9 to 5. I've met many people like that. They just want to go in, do whatever's set in front of them, collect their paycheck, go home, and then not think about it. Play some video games, walk their dog, hang out with their friends and family, and that's fine. Also, the entrepreneurial side where you own your own business, do your own things, and bear all that risk and all the burden from it. Some people really enjoy it and they want that, and they can't do it because they don't have the right opportunity. Like they want to be entrepreneurs, they want to own their own thing, but they can't. At least not yet. They're waiting for the pieces to fall into place. She's assuming that people are the reason why they're working their 9 to 5 is because they're scared. I don't think so. I think it's either lack of opportunity or they actually do like their 9 to 5.
no guarantees, but that's what makes it exciting. It's mine to create, and I know deep down that it'll be worth it.
I think people online are getting lost in the sauce between the actual thing she's leaving her PhD program for, which is ultimately sex work. What it really boils down to, she's choosing to own her own business rather than do a PhD program and a career path that will result in her working for someone else. Though I push back on it a little because many people graduate with a PhD and then they do startups, like the MIT PhD grad who then raises X million dollars in venture capital and then runs off to go do their own thing. That's really common. And heck, it would still tick all of her boxes, which is the career fulfillment, like working in a team, reaping your own rewards. Like that is achievable through other means than just sex work. I understand that sex work is on the table right now. It's like right in front of her and she's able to use that. Like I question long term if it's the most economically viable decision, because you can make a really good career doing other things. You don't have to do that. If she enjoys it and she's good at it and it's easy for her to do, it's fine. No hate on this person, and many people have decided to do the similar thing that she's done, where they've left their PhD positions, left their 9 to 5. Heck, I actually know someone personally who used to work in a career, a typical 9 to 5. They're pretty acclaimed in their field. They're doing all sorts of things, climbing the corporate ladder, and they left. They went and became some e-girl online, made a ton of money from that, and enough to support their lifestyle. And they really enjoyed that lifestyle significantly more. Also, side tangent, I do find it kind of sad, just a little sad, that someone who could be contributing to an academic field of research is leaving to do sex work. That's a little sad to me. I wish that our capitalistic incentives were not so. It just feels to me like our incentive structure for certain things, like example, this, are a little messed up as a society. Feels bad. But hey, who do we have to blame but ourselves, right? That was a lot of me rambling. I have a lot of feelings about this. She's made a big decision in her life, and it just kind of paints a small. It reflects kind of on us as a group of people, a society. Oh, we live in a society, about how we treat people and what we value. I've long said you're compensated for not the difficulty of the job or what you bring to the table, but truly how much people are willing to pay for it. Like just because teachers or nurses might make less than a Wall Street banker, it does not mean that one of them brings more societal value than the other, but one of them definitely brings more money. I don't blame this person's decision. I wish them luck in their endeavor. I hope that they don't regret it. It's a choice.